All right, we got to talk about a spicy issue. So there's been a lot of talk recently about data centers in Jackson. Some people seem to scramble for any data center we can possibly get. Others are opposed to any data center whatsoever. And I get it. The risks and the opportunities seem very high. So I get why people are passionate. But for all the enthusiasm, I think we're missing two things: nuance and respect. If we're going to make a decision as important as data centers, we all need to come together as a community to talk about this. And not just talk past each other, but genuinely listen to each other. If you aren't willing to even hear out the other side, I don't think that's good decision making. And whether you're for data centers or you're against them, if your only argument is I'm louder than you are, I don't think that's good decision making either. It's really important that you share your voice on this important issue, but it's just as important that you remain open-minded, that you're willing to learn, to listen to others, and maybe even change your mind. So in this video, I'm not going to try to persuade you either way. I don't think that's my place, and I'm still learning myself. But I'd love to reset the conversation. And as talks of data centers in Jackson become more real, it's important for us all to understand the risks and the opportunities. So I'll share some of those arguments today, not to persuade you, but to give us a holistic view of the situation. My plea to you is, as you watch this video and as you have conversations with other Jacksonians around town, you don't just find the areas that you agree with, but that you really work to look at the situation as a whole. So let's start with a simple reality. Data center is not one actual thing. Some could be really big, some could be really small. One data center might have minimal impacts on our infrastructure. Another might place significant demands on electric, water, transportation, and land systems. That's why I don't think the question should be, are data centers good or are data centers bad? They should be, for any particular project, what are the specifics of this case? What are the trade-offs? And is this a good project for Jackson? Opponents raise important concerns that deserve serious consideration. Large data centers can create significant infrastructure demands, including things like heavy water usage, high electricity consumption, noise from cooling systems and generators, and possible land use conflicts with residential areas. Opponents rightly point out that even large data centers can be run with a very small number of staff, which means although data centers might create a temporary boost in jobs, in construction jobs while the center is being built, long-term it does not produce significant job creation. And of course, there's an important question about whether we can trust any large tech company. One reason to consider supporting a data center is to position the city to participate in a growing part of the economy. Well, what does that mean? Well, it's not inconceivable that a single data center can bring in $5 to $12 million annually for the city. That's in addition to an estimated $8 to $20 million annually for the JPS school system and funds for the county.
Think about it this way. We hear from constituents all the time who tell us about concerning potholes and road repair work that needs to be done, but we just do not have the resources to do it all. We know there's a huge backlog in blighted properties. There are commercial and residential properties alike that need to be addressed, but we lack the funds. We want to hire more police officers to keep our city safe. We want to hire more firefighters, address crumbling fire stations, and improve our fire safety rating. We know that the status of our libraries is abysmal. We don't have any library in wards such as 6 and 7, and the libraries that we do have throughout the city sometimes have to close early because repairs are needed that we cannot afford. Our animal control processes are totally insufficient. A better building, more equipment, and sufficient staffing is required, but we're budget limited. We know that many want to see our parks and recreation work beefed up. Better, safer parks with more for young people and senior citizens to do. We'd like to give raises to city employees. Many neighborhoods want additional lighting added to our electric bill. And there are even calls for reinvestment in the zoo. It's not inconceivable that a single data center project could provide $1 million to all 10 of these initiatives every single year.
But here's where I think both sides sometimes oversimplify the conversation.
The question isn't whether more revenue would be nice. Of course it would. The question is what we would have to give up in exchange for that revenue. Likewise, the question isn't whether there are legitimate concerns. Of course there are. The question is whether those concerns can be mitigated, managed, or reduced to an acceptable level.
For any proposed project, here are the questions I think we should be asking.
How much water would that project use? How much electricity would it require? And who would bear the cost of any needed infrastructure improvements? How many jobs would be created? And what kind of jobs would they be? What tax revenue would the city, county, and school district actually receive? What incentives or tax abatements, if any, would be offered? Where would the facility be located? And who would be most directly affected? What protections would be in place regarding noise, environmental impacts, and future expansion? And compared to other economic development opportunities, is this the best use of land and resources involved?
If we approve a project that isn't right for Jackson, the health and environmental impacts could stay with us for a generation. On the other hand, if we pass on projects that might be a good fit for Jackson, we risk blowing a once-in-generational chance to finally raise our tax revenue and acquire additional resources to solve our own problems without relying on a bailout from the state or federal government. We can't drag our feet too much, and we need to be prepared to move fast for the right opportunity, but that doesn't mean we can't be deliberative in the process. Maybe after examining all the evidence for a particular case, you decide it's the perfect opportunity for us. Or maybe you decide that the costs are just too high for the potential benefits. Reasonable people can disagree. What I hope we won't do is reduce a complicated issue to slogans, social media posts, or who can yell the loudest. Jackson deserves a serious conversation, one rooted in facts, curiosity, and respect. Because whether a data center comes here or not, the quality of our decision will matter long after the debate is settled.